glad to have you with us here. I am joined next by an awesome crew with details about the next Lincoln's Symphony Orchestra concert, which is tonight at the Lead Center for Performing Arts. Guest soloist playing viola on a concerto on the concert is Rita Porphyris. The composer of that concerto is Julia Adolph, and that piece, plus Finlandia and Scheherazade, will all be conducted by Ed Polachek. A full studio with all three of you here. Welcome this morning.
Oh, it's great to be back. Oh my gosh, it's so good to be back.
Rita, we've got this interesting collaboration here with you on this new concerto.
Yes.
What is that collaboration process like for this piece, Unearth Release?
Well, I was so pleased to be contacted by Ed and Barbara about this piece because I love playing contemporary music by living composers. I think it's really important to, expand the repertoire for my poor neglected little instrument.
It's not so little.
Okay, it's a big
bigger than
giant
it.
instrument, actually. Yeah, okay, it's much bigger than a violin. It burns longer. But anyway, and we do, as violists, we do a lot of contemporary music, but I was so happy to see Julia's piece and to hear her music, not only the viola concerto, but some of her orchestra pieces, which have been played recently by Boston and New York Philharmonic and Philadelphia, I think. Is that right? L.A., yes. So, she's got some great champions here, and the piece is absolutely beautiful, and I hope it becomes a staple of our repertoire.
A beautiful name, too, Unearth Release, I gotta say.
I love that title because it's an active title. It denotes the action, and the piece absolutely describes what that is all about. And I'm going to let Julia describe because she knows so much about this. But I have to just put my 2 cents in saying that I agree totally with what Rita just said, and I think it will become a staple within the viola repertoire. And in fact, I'm probably going to be putting it on my principal viola audition list.
Thank you.
Quite the compliments for you, Julia, here this morning from Ed Polachek. I wanted to bring something else up for listeners, too, because I don't know if I mentioned before, I didn't in my intro, I don't think. We did a pre-concert chat, and that is out there as well if you want to learn more about all of this. Mm-hmm. We had a really nice discussion about your piece, Julia. But a couple of years ago, you studied the connections between therapeutic and creative processes at the Boston Psychoanalytic Society and Institute as an Ecker Fellow. What was that experience like, and how did it affect the music that you compose?
Oh, yes. I've had a deep interest in therapy and psychology really since I was a child. My dad actually encouraged me to start writing down my dreams when I was 6. So I have my dream journal from when I was 6 years old. And I think sort of he fostered within me, a real connection to my unconscious and subconscious, and it's such an important part of the creative process. The reason I got involved with the Boston Psychoanalytic Institute is because I have a real passion for destigmatizing mental illness, specifically within the classical music community, where I feel like, in the world at large, in our culture at large, there is a lot about, self-care and understanding, anxiety, depression, postpartum depression. I just had a child and went through that. And so I started to basically talk publicly about my own struggles with generalized anxiety disorder. And that's something I started in 2020 during my free time in the pandemic. And actually, this piece really does explore my relationship with my anxiety. That's actually a big part. I've actually not really shared that publicly before, but I think you can hear that a lot. And part of the title is about taking what's inside of you and unearthing it, understanding who you are inside, and then bringing that out into the world. So I wanted to kind of study that in this more formal way at the Boston Psychoanalytic Institute. And it was specifically a program, a crossover between where they partnered artists with psychoanalysts, and we explored the connections.
Wow, Julia, we are sisters in the anxiety disorder thing. I know people think that's hard to believe when you're as public as a person is on the radio, but I do think also music is healing. I'm curious to hear from each of you actually, ways in which you feel music can be healing or explore healing.
Well, I find that I'm really not the same person when I'm not writing music. I found that particularly during this postpartum phase that I really needed to be writing every day, and not necessarily, I mean, yes, I had deadlines, but, I was on maternity leave, and I still felt like I needed to it's just the way that I express myself. It's something that I can't really live without. And I become a much more anxious person when I am not setting aside that time to be creative and to play. I mean, because really, when you think about why we all fell in love with music to begin with, it was probably as a child playing with an instrument, listening and dancing. And so I think a big part of healing and the healing power of music is when you reconnect with your childhood love and of playing with music.
I know this resonates with you, Ed.
Yes, it very, very strongly. It's my go-to. Obviously, it's been my medicine. It's been my food. It's been the barometer that's helped me through so many situations, and it has this incredible. It's an incredible intellectual connection. There's no question about music, but the emotional connection with and the spiritual connection with music, to me, that journey into that realm never ever ends. And as I've had the privilege of getting older, while I've been still practicing my art, it becomes even more important to my soul. And so, I think, enough said, I would echo everything that you said, Julia, about that.
Rita?
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with Julia. I am actually a different person, not as a violist. Believe it or not, I'm cripplingly shy, like just so much social anxiety. But something about putting a viola in my, it makes me become a different person. And I think you can live a different life through that and just explore different things. So I've always done that since I started on violin and,
Yeah.
But
And
definitely with the viola, yeah.
An amazing piece to explore this through. And then, Ed, you have paired this with a couple of other really great pieces, Scheherazade, Rimsky-Korsakov, and then starting the concert with Finlandia. What makes Finlandia a great piece to start this concert with?
Well, part of it is the fact that it's, that kind of Eastern European flavor, because I knew I wanted to do I hadn't done the Scheherazade by the Russian composer Rimsky-Korsakov in a while, and I like the pairing of that kind of Eastern European aspect of things. And Finlandia is a piece I haven't done. Gosh, it's just been decades, and many people have asked about that piece over the years, because I've been here a long time now, I mean, I remember I was here before we celebrated our 75th anniversary, and next year's our centennial. So, I've been here for over a quarter of a century, and I thought, this might be the time to actually pull that piece out and do it. I think it's so incredibly popular because of the chorale, which is formed the hymn, Be Still My Soul. But I also just love the way Sibelius was able to make that, intertwine that in a kind of pretty spectacular piece. And it goes without saying that the Scheherazade is one of the greatest of the symphonic repertoire that we can have, that in a certain way is kind of a concerto for orchestra, in that there are so many soloists throughout, from your principal winds and major second trombone solo, trumpet, percussion, cello, harp, and how could we forget our concertmaster Anton, who plays it like nobody else. You talk about this couple, because it just turns out that Anton and Rita are married, and the way their music reaches into my heart, it just, I'd have to say, Be Still My Soul.
See, look at this.
It's true.
And there is so much more to learn about this as well. I'll mention once again that my 3 guests here this morning and I are in a pre-concert chat, which is already out there floating around on the internet on YouTube, or the YouTubes, as my generation likes to say. Lincoln's Symphony Orchestra has entitled their concert tonight, Experience the Intrigue. And my guests here have been Rita Porphyris, Julia Adolphe, who has composed this beautiful viola concerto, and Ed Polachek, who is conducting all of this music here tonight. Thank you to all 3 of you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And as always, find more about this performance tonight at 7:30 and everything that you've heard about here this morning on Friday Live by going to nebraskapublicmedia.org.